Last weekend, we talked about Venus in Virgo's opposition to Saturn in Pisces. That transit wasn't inherently bad. In fact, there was something really constructive about it. But learning about limits and boundaries in relationships, finances, values, aesthetics isn't the most fun experience exactly, as important as it is. But no matter how you look at the seriousness of the astrology of last weekend, it's something to notice the incredibly different astrology that this week's energy is bringing in. Because this week, on Monday, the 13th, actually, Venus moves into Libra. She moves out of Virgo, where she was in her fall, actually, and away from this opposition to Saturn in Pisces. And she moves on to Libra, a sign where she rules, her home sign. So that in and of itself is a nice thing. Venus and Libra both relate to themes around relationship, harmony, peace, beauty, and more. So it's not hard to understand why Venus has a natural affinity for this part of the zodiac. But this Venus ingress into Libra is extra beautiful for sure, because Venus here now is igniting this air grand trine and the kite pattern that we've been working with since August. This is a beautiful configuration, and I'm so excited to speak about it with you today. So let's go ahead and put this configuration on the chart. I like to highlight the astrology that I'm talking about as I go, in the hopes that that brings some clarity. If you're studying astrology, I hope that this supports your study. And if you just want to listen to the significations and the astrology and sort of ignore the visuals, I hope that this works for you too. Okay, so we have Venus here in Libra. That is sort of the main focus point of our conversation today. This Venus in Libra igniting this kite pattern. I do also want to speak about Pluto going direct, which actually also occurs today on Monday the 13th. But like I said, Venus is exalted here in Libra, and that in and of itself is a great thing. But right now, this Venus ingress is extra special because of all of the connections she's making to other planets. So let's put those on the chart. So first of all, we have this opposition to Neptune. We have Neptune here in Aries. And normally I would not really love Venus opposing Neptune. It can bring some confusion, some fogginess, some blurriness, some sort of dreams versus reality conflict. It's so windy outside. Do you see those trees blowing around in the background? Normally I wouldn't be crazy about this Venus-Neptune opposition, but there are so many positive aspects happening for both of those planets that I'm not worried about this opposition. There could be, I think it's going to pull out the more positive, higher sides of a Neptune Venus signature, which can be more like dreaminess, fantasy, unconditional love, connection, higher connection, because like I said, both planets are so well aspected. So let me go ahead and show you that. So, first of all, Venus is trining. As soon as Venus moves into Libra, Venus comes into a trine with Uranus in Gemini and with Pluto in Aquarius. And also, it's just significant to notice the way in which everything is at the 0 degree point, 0 and 1 degree, right? Everything is this start energy, this new energy. But we do have a lot of retrograde planets, and a lot of these planets are actually about to shift into the other sign. So, as much as they're in this new energy, they're also sort of in a reflective state. But just to say, this Venus is well aspected in a trine to Uranus and Pluto, and Uranus and Pluto are trining each other as well. That's this other side of this air grand trine that we've been working with since August. Every time a planet moves into Libra, it comes into this air grand trine formation with Pluto and Uranus and opposing Neptune, because these three planets are very, very slow moving. They're outer planets. So they've been holding these positions for quite some time. Like I said, that's sort of about to shake up and loosen up a little bit. But since August, we've had the sun, first Mars moved through it. Mars moved through this configuration and ignited the kite. Then the sun and Mercury, and now Venus. And I like that Venus is the last of the personal planets to do this, because first of all, whenever Venus moves through a transit, it just gives it a positive, good feeling. And so I like leaving it on that note. And I also think that there's something about how we maybe started to take new actions, or we got ideas. This configuration at these early degrees definitely suggests some, movement into something new. And that just before everything sort of breaks up, for now, Venus into the configuration, which sort of brings it down into our relationships and also our values. It's like it really changes who we are on that most important level now. So it might be interesting to think about what got off the ground for you this summer. In August, in September. September was so busy astrologically because of the eclipses, which also interacted with this configuration. Okay, but you may notice I have not finished talking about this kite, because we have this air grand trine. That's great. But we also have this outer planet triangle, because yes, Pluto and Uranus are trine each other, and Neptune's right in between them, sextiling both. So this is this outer planet triangle that we have also been working with for quite some time. A little bit longer than the air grand trine. This outer planet triangle has been with us, I think, since June or July. And it's about to break up, because Uranus will ingress retrograde back into Taurus for several months. And Neptune is going to be heading back into Pisces as well for a little while. But Pluto is going to stay right where it is, right in Aquarius. And I think that there's something significant about that. It's like Pluto's holding the energy of the future. Not letting us step too far away from it, not letting us go back and clean up the mess from before too much, keeping that sort of one foot in this new dream. But anyway, we have this outer planet triangle, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, working in harmony together, which means that their energies are stronger. It's easier for them to do their thing. It's easier for them to express. And that is amazing, because not only are these planets in new houses and signs, not only are they in new parts of the chart, meaning that we're sort of, as a collective, moving into something new. We're in an era shifting moment where the world is changing quickly around us. But because they are in harmonious configuration with each other, because they're easily aligned, their energies can just, there's nothing holding them back. They're supporting each other. So just Pluto in Aquarius, we had that for a while. And Pluto in Aquarius was really, really strong, and we could feel that energy. It was really doing its thing. I think that this was in 2023, and I think it correlated with the beginning of ChatGPT and, you know, some of the AI stuff that was going on. And then when Uranus came into Gemini, oh my gosh, instead of Uranus being all sort of like clearing up these blockages in Taurus. You know, Taurus does not love change. Uranus was in Taurus since 2018. And Taurus doesn't like change. Wherever we have Taurus in our chart, sometimes we can avoid change, even if it's for the good. Even if it's for the positive, we might say, no, but I like things this way. I'm used to things this way. I'm comfortable with it this way. We can really be quite averse to change in the Taurus part of the chart, our Taurus planets, whatever we have going on with Taurus. You know, oh my gosh, at the same time, so many wonderful things, so loyal, so sort of steadfast and able to just do a little bit day after day, hardworking, so much integrity, so grounded. I love the Taurus signature, but change is not exactly its forte, right? Like Taurus energy is averse to change. But Gemini, on the other hand, loves change, soars with change, actually is the opposite of Taurus in terms of Gemini energy will sort of welcome change just for the sake of change, even if everything's absolutely fine, just for the sake of sort of shaking things up and doing things differently, change for the sake of change. So Uranus there, which loves to bring us where we need to go quickly in surprising ways, in a flash, sort of work with our lives in ways we didn't expect. That Uranus moving into Gemini has been, I think, really strong. And it's also in comparison to what was going on when Uranus was in Taurus. But those planets working together only supports each other, right? Either of them doing that alone is one thing. That Pluto and Aquarius energy, going deep with new ways of connecting, new ways of thinking with Uranus in Gemini, new ways of communicating. The fact that they're both happening at the same time supports that growth. The fact that they're in trine to each other means they can both do their thing that much more easily. And then Neptune is involved as well. Neptune in Aries at the 0 degree point. So this week we have all three of those planets doing their thing. Pluto is going direct today, but the other two planets are retrograde. We're at the early degrees, and they're in this beautiful configuration with Venus in Libra. So Venus had just been in Virgo, which is actually a very nice energy. Although Venus is technically in her fall in Virgo, far away from the sign where she's exalted and at home in Pisces, there's something about Venus and Virgo energy that I really like. It really wants to serve. It really wants to understand what's best. It wants to do a good job. Very loyal. Sometimes there can be a tendency to get stuck in the details, but that can be important work too. And I think that that's a big part of what last weekend was about. Last weekend, this weekend that's just behind us, Venus was opposing Saturn. And like I said in the beginning, and I also have this in a report from the weekend if you'd like to check that out. I'll actually attach that at the end of this report because it's so relevant to now. What's happening now is on the heels of that. So I think it really matters. We were sort of finding the limit. We were finding the boundary. We were finding the edge and coming up against something in terms of finances, relationships, it's good to have structure in relationships. They need that. Otherwise, it's just a fantasy. It's good to have um, uh, boundaries and finances. It's good to have a plan, but it's not exactly fun. But now, right on the heels of that energy, Venus moves into Libra, where she's at home and exalted. And so this is beautiful. It's romance, it's idealism, it's awakening to the beauty around you, harmony around you, inner peace. It's a really feel good place for Venus. And then Venus is igniting this kite, trining Pluto and Uranus. So the energy is just flowing fast and easy between these planets. They're doing their thing. Remember, again, Venus is at home in Libra, so she's extra strong there anyway. She came home, right? She's in her house, and so she's able to really be herself there. And then she has this wonderful support from Pluto and from Uranus. And so even though that Neptune's there, I'm not worried about it. Even though this is an opposition, because Neptune's receiving these two sextiles from the planets that Venus is receiving the trines from. They're both in good moods. They're both on the new plan, on the new mission. There is sort of a few different potentials about this week around this Venus ingress to discuss. You know, it feels like a fresh relationship dynamic moment where relationships have been through that boundary setting when Venus was opposing Saturn retrograde in Pisces. And now there's the shift away from that heaviness, away from duty and figuring out the rules and the limits toward more harmony and pleasure and connection. But it's sort of informed by the lessons of that Venus recently learned from that connection to Saturn while in Virgo. Those boundaries are there. That sense of responsibility is there. And so maybe that's allowing for this sort of refresh moment, these fresh dynamics and relationships to come in this week. I think it could feel like a relationship sort of surge moment. You know, it could be a particularly nice or important or peak of a process type moment in relationships. Also with creativity. The way in which Venus rules aesthetics in Libra, I think, is so important. Venus in Libra knows how to make things beautiful, knows how to make things look good. And in connection with all of these other planets, that could take almost any form, right? It could be writing something new. It could be driving home a different way from work. It could be cooking something different. There's just like an ability to do things differently with a transit like this, for sure. It also kind of feels like a peak of a process because Mars and Mercury and the Sun move through this configuration as well. So now that Venus is doing it, it sort of feels like the end of some of that work. So it might be interesting as well to think about the last few months and what process was unfolding in your life, what new things were opening up. It may have peaked to some extent in September when we had the eclipses, again, also sort of interacting with this kite. They were here at the late degrees of Virgo and Pisces, near where the Venus-Saturn opposition was last weekend. So September was especially busy. But yeah, what process is sort of coming to a head now? Are there decisions maybe that you're needing to make now that have been building or gaining closeness, you know, getting closer to those decisions throughout the summer and into the early fall here? I think that also there's an awakening to like what was a dream and what was a reality. Sort of a separating dreams from reality is one way that I can look at this Saturn or this Venus Neptune opposition. There is a way in which Neptune is sort of holding this idealistic vision. And then Venus is taking action with everything else that's going on with sort of love and creativity. So I don't know, there could be a way in which part of this process is sort of um, understanding what really makes sense and what doesn't. It's a wonderful time to commit to something new, to commit to any kind of new beginning in your life, new habit, um, new routine, new relationship, new goals, a beautiful commitment energy with all of these planets at the 0 degree point. I also think that this week it's wonderful to listen to your intuition a bit. Um, we might not receive messages through logic alone with a configuration like this. They can come through um, a little bit more hazy with Neptune involved. So it might be a feeling uh, and and an emotion, noticing what feels good and what feels bad, moving towards what lights you up and feels easy and fun, and distancing in some way if something doesn't feel right, as much as we can, right? We live in the world. We have to go to work or uh, interact with people maybe who can be challenging sometimes in different ways, or who knows, but we all have different things that we deal with. But to some extent, listening to your emotions as a bit of an inner guidance system where possible is important. And even if we can't take action on it, just honoring your emotions enough to pay attention to them and notice how you feel is great. Sometimes I just do little things in those moments to make myself feel better. Oh, say I'm on a Zoom call that's not going well or something. If I can just grab a comfy blanket off of the couch and put it on my lap, get a cup of tea, something little to kind of care for myself in those moments and make it a little bit easier, can be really helpful. Of course, when something is acutely stressful, we need to go after it a little more aggressively. Make sure to take a walk, make sure to eat well, make sure to sleep well, things like this. But it is amazing how much taking care of yourself and listening to yourself can often be helpful, and how much sometimes our society encourages us to do the opposite of that, to ignore how we're feeling and just push harder, go faster, do more, ignore how you're feeling and get more work done, go faster, go. And it's actually we go faster when we slow down, when we take our time, and when we are caring for ourselves and feeling okay. And sometimes that takes some real work and some real effort and energy. So it's not always easy to do that. There's an interesting vibe this week as well because of this Pluto stationing, or this Pluto going direct. Pluto goes direct on Monday, the 13th. So 5 days before and 5 days after, we're going to feel that station. It's a pretty long station. And I personally notice the station of Pluto more than I notice whether Pluto is retrograde or direct. Pluto spends about half the year direct and half the year retrograde. This is a normal part of the Pluto cycle for it to turn. But when a planet is stationing to go direct, to go retrograde, the planet is at the closest point to the Earth, and it appears to be still in the sky. It holds one point, one part of the zodiac, in this case, 1 degree of Aquarius, which has been such an important degree point and will continue to be since basically like 2020. That's where Jupiter and Saturn met up in 2020, where they had that great conjunction. And Jupiter and Saturn are going to be trining each other soon. Anyway, more movement, more change, more forward moving energy, change happening easily, the future coming in quickly. Um, Wherever Aquarius is in your chart, though, it might be interesting to think about what's changed in that part of the chart already since 2020, and also think about the fact that there are going to be even deeper changes in the next 15, 17 years or so as Pluto works through that house and sign. So Pluto stationing direct, I feel the station more than anything, the 5 days before, the 5 days after. And we all work with these energies differently. For me, a Pluto station, and for everyone to some extent, you might notice there's something subtle about it, but it's sort of heavy at the same time. I kind of like it. It's a little bit internal, it's a little bit quiet, it is a little bit heavy and intense. I can have some really interesting ideas during a Pluto station. And part of the reason for that is that one of the significations of Pluto stationing is sort of things that were hidden or buried or secret emerging, coming to the surface. Pluto is sort of all about not letting anything get away from us. When you move through an experience in life and maybe it was really challenging. And so then once it's over, you sort of go, okay, yeah, good, great. Moving on now. So happy that's behind me. And maybe you don't really take the time to fully process what happened or integrate all the lessons. Pluto is here to remind us, Pluto sometimes can sort of tap on the parts of us that are having an impact that we weren't thinking about, that we hadn't, that we'd let go, things that we'd buried. And we thought, well, that's good enough. I'm moving forward. Pluto can kind of take it and bring it right back into our awareness and say, nope, there's a little bit more for you to deal with here. And that can feel a little bit difficult, but also it's helpful because we take whatever that tape was that was running in the background, and we look at it and we decide whether or not it's a tape we really want to play. And it gives us a chance to adjust things that are working in the background below our conscious awareness. And that's most true when you're having a Pluto transit, but there's sort of like an edge to it with a Pluto station, in my experience. So, this sort of slow, powerful energy where hidden truths can emerge, where secrets can sort of come to the surface, facing things that we've avoided that we didn't really want to think about. And then I think all this energy at the same time, everything we just talked about, there's also just this feeling of the future that I really wanted to mention. Everything is at these early degrees. And so, as much as there's things going retrograde and we're being pulled into the past, we can sense this future just around the corner as well. So, I want to thank my priority members, Lucy and Virginia and Mouch Vesta, for supporting this channel. Memberships and supers really help me to put a little bit more time into the videos and into this channel in general. So I really appreciate all of those supports. And about a week ago, I was on a live here and received some super stickers um, and thanks and gifts, and I didn't really know what was happening. I hadn't received them before. So I just want to thank everyone who contributed to that as well. Again, it just helps me put more time into the channel, make the videos a little bit longer, and those members also receive priority in the comments and some badges and stuff, but mostly just a lot of thanks from me. Huge, huge thanks from me. So I'm going to look over the comments now and the chat and see if there are any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to put them there. I'm probably not going to be pulling up individual charts. I see some dates here, some birthdays, which is really nice. I'm not giving personal readings right now. I'm focused on YouTube. I'm so busy trying to sort of I really don't actually have time to be doing personal readings right now, but I'm looking into some options for the future. But one thing that I like about not doing personal readings right now is it really is my belief that we are all our own best astrologers. Anything that I could tell you about, say, your Venus signature, you learning about your Venus signature, you'll learn so much more from it than us talking about it. You know, it's a language. Astrology is a language. I have no mystical powers here. I'm not burning any incense. That's not what it is. It's a language. And when you learn sort of a signature of the houses, the signs, the aspects, and you learn all of these different things about astrology and you put them all together for yourself, there's so much to learn from that. So I love helping everyone learn about astrology if you're interested in that and talking about what's going on for us as we go. You can also check out horoscopes on my channel by your rising sign. And that is an interesting way to see how these configurations are landing in your chart. These configurations that we talked about today, this kite pattern, I definitely spoke about it in the October horoscopes. So watching that for your rising sign is best. And if you don't know your rising sign, sun sign is the next best thing. Oh, good morning. Good morning, Aslim from Algeria. How wonderful. And Daniel. Yeah, and I'm seeing some personal questions that I am going to skip over. And, it's interesting. Astrology doesn't really tell us what's going to happen anyway. Um, I know there are some predictive qualities to it, but it is my feeling that astrology is sort of best used as a tool for introspection and personal growth rather than for a predictive tool trying to find out what's going to happen. If we can kind of think about these signatures and what they're teaching us, it can just be a different way of interacting and learning about yourself and others in the world. And I know it has some predictive qualities to it, and that part is so fascinating. And we've all, stepped into being interested in that and diving in there more than we should. But I find it works best when we go to tool for personal introspection. Like if you're having a challenging time, paying attention to your moon sign is really helpful. If you're just having a challenging moment or a challenging period in life, making sure that you're really honoring your moon sign can really be helpful. And again, you know best exactly what that means for you. Research your moon sign, learn all about that, read about it, watch videos about it, and then honor those signatures and see how it helps you. I love moon sign things. Some of them are really funny, like Virgo moon really loves running errands so much. If a Virgo moon is having a tough day or going through a hard time, they really should make a list and check things off the list or like vacuum the living room. And that's just so funny to me as a thing that brings great joy and comfort. Um, a Pisces moon might escape in one way or another. Can be sort of negatively through drugs and alcohol, but might be through sleep or listening to music or watching a movie. A Gemini moon needs to talk. Maybe not even talk about it, but just talk, communicate, do something that stimulates that curiosity. Anyway, so just noticing that with those questions. Hi, Zia. Hi, Lucky. Hi, Australia to Australia. How wonderful. It's so nice. And I like everyone just sharing their birthdays too. It's nice just to share them too. Hi, Krista and Morgan and Gina R. Oh, 11, you have so many Libra planets, Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and Mars. A beautiful Libra stellium. Well, Venus moving through this will be really wonderful for you. Venus, wherever Venus is moving through the chart, we're sort of a little, it's like having a magnet there. So we're a little bit magnetized to those themes, and others might be magnetized to us. So when Venus moves through your first house, whatever sign is rising, um, like 11 here has a Libra rising. While these few weeks, while Venus is moving through this house and sign, you're sort of a little extra magnetic. You know, people want to hear what you have to say. They are listening intently. You might actually like appear a little bit more attractive. It's just a time where we're sort of, people are drawn to us. We can get our message across sometimes a little bit easier when Venus is in the first house. So I do wish you luck with relocation with your Gemini. And I think that's it for the comments. I am going to attach a couple of other videos here that you might enjoy if you enjoyed this video, including the one about last weekend. It will probably take 24 hours for these videos to actually be posted. But once YouTube processes this video, there will be some other videos attached here. And do check out the horoscopes on my channel as well for more information. And thank you again to Mount Vesta, Lucy, and Virginia for your memberships. And have a wonderful week, everyone. Thanks so much for being here.